Hi, it's Diane, and I'm very excited for my new book, Daily Meditations for Visionary Leaders. Check it out on my website, visionsapplied.com/meditation. Now, on with the show.
If you are listening to this podcast, it means you are searching for someone who understands you, someone who gets you. You are yearning to be understood and to belong. Welcome to the Someone Gets Me podcast, where we help smart, talented, and sensitive people navigate an often insensitive world. Let's welcome your host, ambassador, author, speaker, and mentor, Diane Allen. Diane has the experience and knowledge to educate and inspire, as she has been there and understands your unique intensities and their challenges.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Someone Gets Me. Today, I have an interview that you are going to so enjoy. This woman is an amazing powerhouse, business-wise, spiritually, and she has an amazing life and helps so many people in a way that's honest and authentic and real. And it's not very often that you run into someone who is so real and so true. And I'm so blessed to have on the show, and you are going to love her. Her name is Jennifer Kaye, and she comes to us from Seattle, and which is one of my favorite cities. And she is an enlightened person who can really help shine some light on things for us. So I'd like you to welcome to the show today, Jennifer. Welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start a little bit about asking you to share with our listeners a little bit about you, like whatever you'd like to say, how you got to doing what you're doing, what you like about it, where you come from, whatever comes to mind, just so they have a feel for who Jennifer is.
Okay, thank you, Diane. And thank you again for inviting me to be on your show today. Yes, my name is Jennifer Kaye, and I am an intuitive empowerment coach. I have been in this particular field for about 25 years. I grew up in a home with an intuitive mother. It was a very difficult road traveling as a child at a time where psychics, intuitives, people like that were not so openly accepted. But I am proud to say that my mom was one of the first paid intuitives to work for law enforcement with the FBI, CIA, and the local police in the area that we lived in. So I come from a lineage of intuitive people. My grandmother on my father's side, so I have both my mother and my father's energy of being intuitive. And it's been a great ride.
Awesome. So how long have you been knowing that you were intuitive? Like ever, since you were born or since you can remember? Like it's always been there?
I would say now, at this period of my life of having a lot more life experience, I would say that I probably came into my life with a very strong sense of intuition and a connection to consciousness. But when I grew up, my mother was working in an industry that was a complete negative feeling for me. I was raised a Baptist, and as you know, in religion, a psychic type person would be somebody that was somehow connected or infused with the devil, if you will. So with that type of childhood, I would never think that I was intuitive, because I didn't believe that it was true that people could have a very strong sense of intuition. And being brought up with my mom in that day and age, I was hoping to God that I didn't, because you were definitely an outcast. After I finished school and I went into the corporate world, I would say that I found out probably around the age of 22, 23, that I knew that I had something that the other person or other people around me didn't have. I would go into meetings, I would bid on contracts. I always knew the answer. I knew the exact number. So I started to feel what that was. Why was I able to do things that other people weren't able to do? And that's probably when, in my mid-20s, I identified the fact that I did actually have a very strong connection to intuition.
Oh, that's amazing. I remember thinking when I was in my 20s, everybody could see things the way I saw them. And when they didn't, I was so surprised. I was like, wait a second, like you guys don't see that too. And they just look at me like I was the weird one. And now I see it goes so completely different. So that's very interesting. And so you were in the corporate world for a while, and then now you're an intuitive empowerment coach. So how about that transition? How did that happen that you are doing this full time now instead of in the corporate world?
I think the path that I took in the corporate world was to stand up very strong in mainstream America as a successful person, trying to run away from what I felt growing up. And as I said, being in the household with a person that was using a psychic type of ability with law enforcement, you can only imagine what was going on inside our home with people visiting and phone calls. And there was a newspaper article that my mom had found 9 bodies in a parking lot that they dug up because of my mom's, insider information. That's the one memory that I recall that just stuck in my mind, like, hell no, like, oh no, because my friends started to ask me so many questions about my mom, like, how can she do that? What's that about? Like, do you believe in God? So there were so many unhappy, disconnected feelings that I had about intuition or the word psychic, that being in the corporate world was safe. I was very successful. And it wasn't until, as I said, I was in my 20s that I finally realized that I did have some type of extraordinary capability. And it wasn't until then that I started to explore what that was. And so the transition was very simple for me. When I knew that I knew too much, that the average person didn't know, I would then want to take responsibility to be able to use that gift in a way to help others.
That's powerful. And now look, 25 years later, still helping people.
Thank you.
And following your heart and being that light, because that's how I experience you, as this just amazing light, like a lighthouse. It's true.
Thank you.
So on a note about how you handle this, because in a very intuitive, sensitive person living in a not very sensitive world, when we look out at the world, people tend to be not sensitive and apathetic and overstimulated and all that stuff. What are some things that you do to kind of take care of yourself? Because, you have a lot of connection to all the energy out there in the world, and we know that it's a lot. So what are some things that you do that help you manage and recharge your batteries and kind of get things going? Because a lot of our listeners are either empaths or have an emotional overexcitability, which is not nearly to the level that you experience. But I'm certain that some of the things you do would give them some insight of how they could help themselves.
Okay, that's a good question. And I also want to say that we don't know. I mean, they may have the same sensitivity that I have. So I never want to believe that I have more than the other person or other people, because the reality is, until a person decides to be in their consciousness, in their moment of connecting to their intuition on a daily basis, they won't really understand just how, I don't really like the word powerful, but just how connected they are. I'll just use that word for a second. Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing is, there's a difference between being a highly sensitive person intuitively and being a highly empathic person. An empathic person is a person that I feel, in my opinion, would need to be very, very aware of how they interact in their daily life. First off, what their process is when they wake up, how they're going to use their intention on their daily routine or their daily interaction, their daily relationship. So for a person that feels everything and that can become uncomfortable or become nervous or become anxious, that's a whole different process, because they have to learn to understand that their empathy is a part of who they are. And so just like brushing your hair or brushing your teeth, you would want to have a routine that you tell yourself in the morning, I'm empathic, I'm going to be in my body, I'm going to breathe through uncomfortable situations, and I'm going to ground myself as often as I can, knowing that my breath and my feet are attached to me and that can help me move forward, or help me stand still, or help me reduce the anxiety or sensitivity that I feel. So the first thing is that it would have to be an ongoing dialogue with their self to retrain how they operate on a daily basis. That's for the empath. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yes.
Okay. So for the intuitive person, the clairvoyant person, then that's a different framework, because that's something that you can actually turn on and off. And a lot of people don't understand the difference. Empathic people, it's not genetic, obviously, but I would use that kind of attachment vehicle to identify that it is a part of who they are. It is a part of their spirit. It is a part of how they operate in the human body. And so for them, they would need that full-on routine to remind themselves. It's just like riding a bike, brushing your teeth, doing any kind of walking or exercise. It's something that you want to implement so that it becomes a routine for you. The intuitive person, that's a different story, because let's just take clairvoyance, clairaudience as an example. That is if you are finely tuned, it's the direct connection to know the truth all the time. You can be sitting in a conference or sitting in a situation, and you can know that the person is not telling you the truth. So when I look at intuition and people that have a sense of intuition, I can just look at the major three, which is seeing, feeling, and hearing. That is a different type of routine or confirmation, or wanting to expand, if you will. An empath, again, needs a routine to be able to maintain, stabilize, and to feel grounded in their life, because they feel everything. Being intuitive, most people that I have worked with or met or have some way interacted with over the past 25 years, they want to be the best intuitive. They want to know more about intuition. They want to understand how they can identify their gift and begin to not only utilize it on a daily basis, but to actually increase their awareness and build on what they have naturally. So in that particular arena, those people are basically just trying to gain more control, gain more awareness, and gain more expertise.
That's great. And so what are some things that you do to help them? How do you work with somebody who comes to you and says, I really want to get more in touch with my intuition. I think I have something going on. I'm not really sure. And how do I get started?
Well, with my particular gift, I'm actually a person that has quite an extraordinary gift. So it would take me 7 to 9 seconds to analyze if they actually were aware of their intuition, if they were actually able to consistently be learning and adapting and growing. So the first thing I would do is analyze if I were able to even provide information that would help them. The one thing that I don't do, Diane, is I don't work with people that I don't feel that I can help or that would be able to understand how I communicate. So I did want to say this to you at the beginning, which I forgot. My basic feeling about life is this. I believe that we are a spirit that comes into a physical body, and we have life experiences. They're positive or negative, they're joyful or painful, and it's all mixed up, and that's how we basically live in our life. So for me, if somebody wanted to know about their intuition, I would analyze them, and then if I could, I would offer them suggestions of just being in the truth. Whatever you know to be the truth, confirm it every moment that you are awake. If you think that you feel something, if you know you feel something, own it. If you feel you hear something, own it. The more you confirm that your intuition, your natural gift is real, it will become stronger. It's that simple. I don't believe there's a book that you can read that is going to simplify things or be able to help you to become some massive guru of the world of intuition. I don't believe that that's real. I believe that we're a spirit in a physical body, and I believe that our intuition lives within our spirit, and our physical body is what helps us identify through feelings what's true and correct in life.
Oh, that's great, because I think I agree with you. There, it is not in a book. It's all in experience and paying attention. And I love your comment about it. Is that true? And stay with the truth and stay in the moment, in the truth, just moment to moment to moment to moment. And it's the practice of that and the discipline of that that does make it stronger. So that's genius. And it's
We
not in
know
a
that.
book. It's just not
No.
in a book. You can't read a book and get it. You know, I have people say, oh, I got to figure it out. I got to figure it out. And I always say, there's no figuring. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, we own our truth. No one knows more than we do. If you never go to school, if you've never had to, if you don't have to continue to learn what other people want to teach you, you know everything inside yourself. When someone says something that you know isn't the truth, you know, but for various reasons you believe it, or you are too fearful to go against what they say. So our body is our tool that helps our spirit know what the truth is.
Yes, amen. It is true. The body is the tool. And when we listen, you know, like how many times have any of us known what was happening, you know, had a gut feeling and knew it and went against it and paid a price. You didn't listen.
No.
And then looked back and go, if only I'd listened. You know, I think that happens so commonly.
It changes the course of our life. Our body tells us what's happening. It tells us if we're in danger. It tells us if things are not truthful. It tells us what we know to be true and correct. And I can't reiterate that if we listen to our body, we have a wonderful life. It's just that simple. No one knows more than what we know.
Right. And so living in a culture where people are trained to turn that power over to others, like go to the doctor and you're going to heal me and what I say isn't valid, or those kinds of things, is a challenge for some people, I think, to help them heal and help them grow when they're so used to turning their power over to someone else. And, you know, well, you're the coach, so you're going to tell me what's right and what's wrong. And when that really, they need to learn it for themselves.
Yeah, we have not been raised in the United States, Canada, most of Europe. We have not been raised to know that our opinion, that our feelings are true and correct. We are always sent out to find out something better, a better workshop, a better book, a better speaker. We're always looking to create something outside of our own self, our own knowing. And that's not to say that those aren't fun things. It's great to go to a workshop. There's a person, and I won't mention names, but there's a person when you walk in the room and he's talking, I mean, you are electrified, you are on fire, you're actually thinking you can go right up on stage with him and just bang it out. But the reality is when you leave that energy of that room and you go home and you try to do what he or she is asking you to do, or you have to duplicate it, or you go down into that grind, a lot of times it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because that's their theory, that's their energy, that's their methodology of their lifestyle of being able to it's not just have a business but to be able to motivate people. There's an energy about that, right? But when you're by yourself and you've left that room and you're now trying to motivate your own self, it's not that easy, right? So sometimes we can get down on ourselves by reading a book and thinking, oh my God, I don't feel any better. I went to a workshop. Jesus, why don't I feel better? Why can't I be like other people? Why am I not moving forward? Why am I not making enough money? Why am I still sick? The reason is that when you listen to your own self, you have the answer. And people say, oh, you know, Jennifer, that's so simple. Yeah, it's really that simple. When I first started to use my gift, I decided that I would work in the field of medicine. So I worked with a doctor. I worked privately for 2 years in the medical profession because I wanted to make sure that my intuition was absolutely correct. So I went into the most difficult industry, medicine, and then I skipped over to science, because if they're going to find out that you don't have intuition, those are the top 2 fields to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. Simply wasn't the case with me. So what I learned along the way is that so many people are trying desperately to figure out from somewhere outside of themselves, how can I fix myself? How am I going to be able to be better, make more money, be happier? And unfortunately, it starts within our own self, believing ourselves, listening to ourselves, and identifying what makes us feel joy, happiness, passion, right? There's no one that is going to feel happy, passion, excitability every day of their life. I'm going to say that I don't believe that that's possible, because the life experience of a human being, there are many emotions that we are going to go through. We are going to go through sorrow. We are going to go through pain. We are going to go through rejection. Let's slide in some passion. Let's slide in some excitement. And then let's slide in death. Let's slide in the deepest sorrow possible. Why do I know that's true? It's because we're human beings in a human life. And everyone's going to have death around them. Everyone is going to have sickness around them. Everyone is going to have pain. We are going to feel love loss. So for people to go out and try to get the golden ticket to be at Disneyland every day, it's not real. So the expectations that we fill our lives with are really the poison that we're drinking.
The expectations that we're filling our life with are the poison we're drinking. Everyone, you should rewind for about the last 4 minutes and listen to it over and over and over again, over and over and over again, because it is true. It's 100% true. And so there you have it. We could end the show now. We're not going to, but we could, because that was profound and it was truth. How do you recharge your batteries?
Well, I mean, we'd have to look at what my life looks like, right? So I could say a few things that make me feel happy. But if people listen to me and they read my books and think, oh my gosh, this is what she does. So I'd like to answer that question in a different way. The happiness that I have in my life, I have 2 children. I have a son and a daughter, and they're the biggest treasures that I could have ever imagined when I was a young girl. I've gone through every painful experience that you could with children. I've had to grow up with them. So my biggest happiness, I think, is the interaction that I feel with my children. I love watching them. I love the things that they get involved in. And by nature, I love to paint. I love walking. I love listening to music. I don't do very well in big crowds. So my ideal day of happiness would be probably walking in my garden, listening to some music, and eating food that I love.
Food that you love. So what food do you love?
So the foods that I like warm food. I'm not a person that likes cold food. I've had problems with my stomach in the past, so I tend to stay away from foods that are raw, and I tend to stay away from foods that are cold. So I like warm food. I like mushy food, so curries are really nice. Soup is nice. People say, oh my God, you're eating soup in the summer? Yeah. The thing is, I eat exactly what I want anytime I want to eat it. And sometimes people will say, well, you know, Jennifer, you have to what? No, I really don't. Not really. And the reason I say that I can eat whatever I feel like eating is because first, I make pretty good choices. And second, I don't feel that the people that have a problem with their weight, and I'm going to get off on a side road here, I don't feel that people that have a problem with their weight is necessarily all fat. What I know working in the medical profession for 25 years is that a lot of times people think that they're overweight, and in actuality, they are inflamed. Their intestines are inflamed, their bowels are inflamed, stomach's inflamed, blah, blah, blah. And that can add 10 to 15 pounds, which most people will identify that as, oh my God, I'm having a problem with the food. Usually no. So I eat what I want. Warm food is good. And I like pears, peaches, cherries, blackberries, things that give me energy.
Oh, that's awesome. I love cherries. Yes.
Me too.
And I remember when I was in Seattle the last time visiting some friends, and they, somewhere near their house, I don't really remember where I was, but there were wild blackberries growing. We got to eat the wild blackberries, and then we went up on Mount Rainier, and there were wild blackberries up there. And oh, I still remember those like they were yesterday. Oh, they were so good.
The thing about this area the state of Washington, especially near the Puget Sound area, we have wild blackberry bushes everywhere. So even like in my backyard, I have them. The parks in the area that I live in, we have them. Nobody sprays pesticide. And the other thing is the Mount Rainier or Rainier cherries. We're also known for that. So those are really delicious.
Oh, I didn't have any of those. I'm going to have some of those because I just remember those blackberries. Like when I saw the first just wild blackberries on the side of the road practically. And I'm like, and they're like, pick them if you like them. I said, are you kidding me? Oh, it was like I was in heaven the whole time I was there. And I'm like, this is the neatest thing ever. And that's what they said. They said that nobody sprays pesticides on them. Everybody's more aware. It's real organic, just food there on the road. It was amazing. Oh, I love those. Just brought back a great memory.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. And so I know that you've written a book that's not quite out yet, but will be out right around the time this podcast airs. And I was wondering if you share a little bit about it and kind of what the inspiration was behind it. And I think it would be interesting for people to know about.
Okay. Thank you, Diane. My new book is called The Invisible Anatomy. And the invisible anatomy is, there are certain energy points in the physical body that are somewhat of a magnet. And what I mean by that is there are energy points in the body that certain emotional, mental, and spiritual interaction, events, memories, they will attach themselves to certain parts of the body. And I have created a system to identify for a normal average person simply the areas of the body that are attached to physical ailments, which are a byproduct of an emotional or a mental or a spiritual experience.
Awesome. That is amazing. So this book could be read by a non-medical person, right? Like Absolutely. You don't have to be a doctor to read it. Somebody like myself or a listener could get their hands on the book and start learning about how the spiritual part and the physical part all go together and the emotional piece and all of that, right?
Yes.
Great.
And there's a really cool body chart in the beginning of the book. And the body chart is for individuals to take a deep breath, circle areas of their body that they've had a weakness or a challenge or a physical ailment. And surprisingly, when you get through to the last chapter, you will realize where and how the experiences of your life affected that part of your body. And then there are exercises to learn how to rebuild, restructure, and to kind of clear up things that have been caught up in the memory of your life experiences.
Oh, that's profound. I have goosebumps. I could see so many people freeing themselves from probably generations of gook, trauma, intergenerational pain stuff. Just by listening to you, I have goosebumps all over me. I cannot wait for this book to come out.
Thank you. So for the past 25 years, I have analyzed the individuals that I've worked with, the teams that I've worked with, the groups that I've worked with, children that I've worked with, and I've kept charts. And I realized probably 5 years into it, this is the reason. These are reasons why the stomach malfunctions, why Parkinson's sets in at the stomach on the vagus nerve as opposed to where they're thinking that it is setting in. It's a repetition of experiences and how we're able to handle it emotionally, mentally, or spiritually that causes the greater imbalance. And the more trauma to the area repeatedly, the bigger the physical damage.
Wow. It's true, and it keeps perpetuating itself. Oh, that's amazing. What a revolutionary thing. And so you're going to be spreading the news about this book all over the place, right? When it comes out?
Yes.
And I hope maybe you'll be doing some speaking or teaching about it, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Awesome. That is tremendous because I think people need to hear about it. I think that all people, especially people who are more aware, whether it's because they're an empath or an intuitive or all the above or an overexcitable, whatever word people want to use, that that when people are living at a different place other than, like, I call it the walking dead or the sleepwalking,
Mm-hmm.
there's a different life experience. And to have in your hand something that you can look at and start to walk down a path to your own freedom and healing is life changing, and it could be life saving in a lot of ways. And that is really, really cool. And and it's interesting because you said that you started keeping charts on things, so you kept track. And I know a lot of people who do all kinds of cool healing and all that, and none of them ever think about keeping charts or keeping track. Like, you have this unique gift that thought of, keep track of this and pay attention to it. And, to me, that's a really interesting and very profound balance. And I think that, when you have the intuitive part, but you also have that linear business part that says, okay, we need to keep track of this, pay attention to this, look at this. And that's a really neat skill set to have. And I just wanted to tell you, I hear that in you. And I think that's something that you will see will really bless a lot of people as you start teaching more and more this book, because they're going to see that.
Yeah, you're bringing up a point that you're bringing up a very valid point in a global and worldwide discussion of intuition that I'm very involved and attached to and a leadership in. As I said to you, when I was a child, learning all of the crazy behind psychic type people and that world, it was a very ugly communication. It was just not credible. It was not reliable. It was more of taking advantage of people, honing in on the vulnerability of others, making money, and telling lies. And so that whole arena caused me so much sadness inside and fear, because one thing I know about my mother was and is one of the most honest individuals I have ever met. She is the most beautiful, loving, and I think you'll find a photo of her on my website, most beautiful, loving woman you could ever meet. She went outside of the box and tried to use her gift to help others, and was basically torn up by it because of what her children felt. So having that inside myself, as I said, I excelled at school. I excelled in the corporate world. And when I say I excelled, I opened my first company when I was 25 years old and sold it a few years later for millions. So I was determined to step outside of the stereotype of what psychic, whatever that world was. I was not going to be a part of it. So I developed myself as a corporate successful woman, and then I took that into science and medicine. So when people look at me, they cannot figure out, where is the hippie headband? Where is the snake oil? Where is that? So when they talk to me and they see me, they think, wait a second, that doesn't go with what we've been taught. That doesn't go with what we believe. And so I use my gift in science, medicine, sports. I analyze sports teams around the world. I analyze sports players. I use it in the world of music, research projects. Let's see, what else? Pretty much anything I feel like doing. Because the one thing that I can tell you is, if you really have intuition, you have it. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what workshop you're in. Intuition is intuition is intuition, just as your hair is the color that it is today. Your eyes are the color that they are today. If you've got intuition, you've got it. And then you put your passion behind it, you put your intention behind it, and then you just do whatever you feel like doing, because you actually have it.
Right. You actually have it. It's not a game.
It's not a game.
So is there a success story that you feel led maybe to share with somebody about a situation that you think back and you go, wow, that was a really cool success thing that I would like to share?
I'd like to share a success thing about somebody that I had the honor of working with, if I may.
Sure.
I prefer not to share a success story about myself. I would like to share a success story about an incredible woman that I met that came into my office one day, and I was actually getting ready to leave out of the door, and she looked at me And she said, I don't have an appointment. I've heard a lot about you. Do you have a minute? Normally, I would have said, I need to get home to, cook for my kids. But I looked at her and I said, absolutely, sure, come on in. She sat down, and you will find her on my website. She's just an awesome girl. She sat down and she said, I'm really sorry, but I'm very emotional. I've just come from the doctor and they told me that I will never be able to have a child. And I said, huh, okay. And she said, I was referred to you by someone that you helped with a health issue. And I said, okay. And I said, why don't you sit back, let me take some deep breaths, and let me figure out what's going on here. So she sat back, and I said, that's interesting. I'll never forget what I said to her. I absolutely see you with a son. And she said, really? And I said, first, let's talk about what's wrong with your body. I don't need to know what the doctor told you, but let me tell you what I feel. You're an Olympic athlete, is that correct? Yes, I am. I was. I said, from this period of your life, 7, 9, 16, 22, 24, those are periods of your life that you've had physical damage to your body based upon your need to be perfect. She started crying, blah, blah, blah. We get past that. I said, you're exhausted. Oh, they said, blah, blah. Okay, listen. I am not going to interfere with what your doctor said. I'm not going to try to change your mind about what your doctor said. Medical professionals are in this world to help us understand, period. But what I will say is, these are things that when you're ready, that I'd like you to try so that your body starts to relax. There are things that I would like you to do to prepare yourself to go into the next phase of your life without all the incredible expectations that you have of your perfectionism. And these are the things that I think that you can add to your diet, which will prepare yourself to have a baby when you're ready. 2 years later, she had a son. His name was Tanner, and he's 12 years old now. And that's a beautiful story that I have.
Oh, I love that story. And you stayed when you could have left, and she was open and listened. Oh, that's so sweet.
Thank you.
That
Susan Hellman is her name, and she's amazing. She's now an equestrian trainer in Rancho Santa Fe. But yeah, she's a beautiful girl, and she was scared. And if she wouldn't have come in that day and I would not have stayed, things might have been different for her. But we were
right.
both open to exchanging with each other.
Right. Because both of you were open and willing and receptive. It changed her life. And it would have been different, we don't know how, had you both not cooperatively done that, been in that space. I think that's why it's so beautiful to me. It took both of you, it took two people. It took the whole synergy of it. How beautiful.
Diane, I think one of the biggest challenges that I have felt in the past 25 years with my gift, people will always say, that's so extraordinary. She's so extraordinary. And the reality is, I don't know that that's the truth. First off, I'm not extraordinary. The gift extraordinary, I've had a lot of time to work on it. I've spent 2.5 decades working on my gift, honing my skill, understanding how to go deeper, understanding how to bring it faster. And I just happen to be a vehicle with a big heart. So my gift is used in the right way, but my biggest happiness is not how I'm doing. My biggest happiness is that the people that contact me take the information and they do the work. I could have said 100 things to her that day, but if she didn't take the responsibility within her own heart and her own spirit to have a child in her life, it wouldn't have mattered what I said, whether I was right or wrong, or I was amazing, or I was extraordinary. It doesn't really matter, because we all have to take the responsibility once we have the information to bring what we want into our life at whatever stage our life has it in store. Sometimes we want things so fast. We want it fast. We want it now. And we push and push and push. I've learned in my own personal life, and I share it with others, if the door doesn't open after knocking on it a few times, step back. It's either not time to go through the door or the door shouldn't be open.
Amen. Right. It's true. And that's why I think that story is so beautiful, that both of you had to be open and receptive, and she had to do the work. And your clarity about that, I think, is something for everybody to hear, is that you're not the one doing the work. You're the one sharing, and they do the work, and your people do the work around you. You know, you have that beautiful altruistic open heart and this great gift. And if everybody who came into your presence didn't do the work, it would stop right there. You know, they have to, you know, we all have to do our own work. I always tell my people, there's no vicarious atonement. We all have to do our own work. That's the rules.
That's the rules.
That's beautiful. I'm going to put your website in our show notes, and then your book will be on Amazon shortly, right?
Yes.
And is there anything else that we have not covered, or anything that you feel led that you would like to share with everybody before we say goodbye for this round? We'll probably do others.
Yes, I would. I would just like to say that wake up every day and find something beautiful in your life. Find something beautiful in your life. And throughout the day, if you become stressed, angry, sad, whatever the emotion is, know that your breath is one of your best friends. Breathe in, because it allows your brain to remove whatever you were just thinking or feeling, to take a pause. Find something beautiful in your life and stay with that feeling for as long as you can. Thank you for having me, Diane.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer, for spending the time and investing the time with us on the show today. It was so wonderful to have you here. Remember, everybody, keep your face to the sun so the shadows are behind you. And until next time, remember, you're a rock star.
Are you tired of searching for someone who understands you? Join our Facebook group, Someone Gets Me. In this group, you will be able to connect with others who are intense, sensitive, smart, talented, and wanting to be understood. Diane shares her insights and teachings, and you can connect with others. Join today.